Have you ever looked at the news and seen the numbers? The US is over $38 trillion in debt. Europe owes $14 trillion. Japan, $9 trillion. All told, global debt has skyrocketed past $315 trillion. That's nearly 3 times the entire world economy. It feels like every country on Earth is drowning in debt. Which leads to a pretty obvious question that almost nobody asks. If every nation owes money, who are they all borrowing from? Who is the ultimate creditor? Is there some secret financial overlord, a hidden country, or maybe an alien civilization lending us all this cash? The answer is far more shocking and much weirder than that. And by the end of this video, you'll understand the hidden system that powers our entire modern world. Your view of money and debt will never be the same again. To understand the global debt explained in a way that makes sense, we first need to travel back in time. For most of history, when a king or a government needed money, they'd either raise taxes, go to war and plunder, or borrow from wealthy families and banks. But this was risky. If the king lost a war or just decided not to pay, the lenders were out of luck. This all changed with the invention of something called a sovereign bond. A sovereign bond is basically an IOU from a government. You give the government money today, and they promise to pay you back with interest over a set period. What made these bonds special was the promise of an entire nation-state backing them up. This made them one of the safest investments you could possibly find. Fast forward to today, and these sovereign bonds are the absolute foundation of global finance. Think of them as the bedrock on which everything else is built. Banks, pension funds, insurance companies, large corporations, and even individual investors all buy these bonds because they're considered ultra-safe. So when we ask who owns world debt, the answer isn't a single entity. It's millions of different creditors all over the globe. Let's take the US national debt as an example. You might hear politicians talking about how much money America owes to other countries like China or Japan. And it's true, foreign governments do own a chunk of US debt, around 25% or so. They buy US bonds as a safe way to store their national savings. But here's the kicker. The vast majority of US debt, almost 3/4 of it, is actually owned by Americans themselves. Who are these American creditors? It's your retirement fund. It's the insurance company that holds your policy. It's the bank where you have a savings account. It's even the US government itself, through agencies like the Social Security Trust Fund. So, in a strange way, America owes most of its money to itself. The same is true for most major economies. Japanese citizens own most of Japan's debt. Europeans own most of European debt. The system is less like one person owing money to another, and more like a circular flow of promises within a country and across the global financial system. Now, this is where it gets really strange. With all this debt, you'd think governments would have a detailed plan to pay it all back, right? Wrong. For the most part, countries have absolutely no intention of ever repaying the principal on their debt. They don't need to. When a batch of sovereign bonds comes due, the government doesn't scramble to find the cash. Instead, they just issue new bonds to pay off the old ones. This process is called rolling over the debt. Imagine you have a credit card bill. Instead of paying it off, you just take out a new credit card to pay the old one. As long as someone is willing to give you a new credit card, you can theoretically do this forever. That's exactly how countries borrow money. They just keep rolling the debt forward, making sure to pay the interest along the way. This is the secret to why the global debt crisis we keep hearing about never seems to fully explode. The system is designed to keep going, not to end. So what would happen if a major country like the United States suddenly decided to become fiscally responsible and pay off its entire $38 trillion debt? You might think this would be a great thing, a moment of global celebration. You would be catastrophically wrong. It would trigger an economic collapse of unimaginable proportions. Why? Because US government bonds are considered the safest financial asset in the world. They are the primary reserve asset for the entire global financial system. Banks use them as collateral for loans. Pension funds rely on them to secure retirees' futures. If they all suddenly disappeared, the foundation of the financial world would crumble. There would be no safe asset to benchmark everything against. The system would freeze, lending would stop, and we would enter a global depression that would make the 1930s look like a walk in the park. Paradoxically, the world economy needs the US and other major nations to stay in debt. This brings us to the most powerful players in this whole game: central banks. Like the Federal Reserve in the US, central banks have a unique and almost magical power. When the government needs to borrow more money than the public or foreign investors are willing to lend, the central bank can step in and essentially create money out of thin air to buy the government's bonds. This process is often called printing money, or more formally, quantitative easing. This central bank debt creation is a key part of how modern economies work. It allows the government to fund its spending without directly raising taxes. But it also has consequences. Injecting all this new money into the economy can lead to inflation, devaluing the cash in your pocket. This is the delicate balancing act central bankers have to manage, keeping the debt machine running without letting inflation get out of control. It is a major reason why understanding the bond market explained by central bank actions is crucial to understanding our economy. So after all this, who is the real creditor? If everyone owes money in a circular system, who is at the top? The answer is no one and everyone. The real creditor isn't a country, a bank, or a shadowy billionaire. The real creditor is the system itself. It's a global network of interlocking promises. You promise to pay your mortgage to the bank. The bank promises to pay its bondholders. The bondholders, maybe a pension fund, promise to pay retirees. And the government promises to pay everyone who holds its bonds by collecting future taxes or borrowing more. It's a system built entirely on faith that the promises will be kept, faith that the debt will be rolled over, faith that the money will still be worth something tomorrow. The entire $315 trillion mountain of debt is just a ledger of these promises. It's not a debt to be repaid, but a mechanism that functions as the backbone of our economy. This perspective changes everything. When you hear about the national debt, don't just think of it as a bill to be paid. Think of it as the raw material that fuels our financial world. It's the reason interest rates go up and down. It's a major factor behind inflation and recessions. It's intertwined with the rise and fall of global powers. The system of sovereign debt rollover isn't a bug. It's the defining feature of modern monetary theory in practice. It's a machine that has run for decades, creating immense wealth and stability. But it's also a machine that relies on perpetual motion and endless confidence. And if that confidence ever truly breaks, the consequences would be felt by every single person on the planet. The real question isn't, who do we owe the money to? The real question is, how long can we all keep believing in the promises? Thank you so much for watching. So the next time you hear politicians arguing about balancing the budget or news anchors panicking about national debt hitting a new record, remember this: the system was never designed to be paid off. Debt is the system. It's the engine that creates money, fuels growth, and keeps the entire global economy moving. As long as everyone believes the promises will be honored tomorrow. But here's the uncomfortable truth. If confidence ever breaks, the entire structure collapses at once. Not because the numbers stopped adding up, but because people stopped believing in them. And that leaves us with one final question, the one almost nobody dares to ask. What happens the day the world loses faith in its own debt? If you found this breakdown eye-opening, make sure you subscribe to HistoroMystic, where we turn the world's biggest financial mysteries into simple, powerful stories. And if you want to understand how this story plays out, and what history tells us about the next major shift, watch our deep dive episodes linked in the description. This is HistoroMystic, and debt will never look the same again. If this video changed how you think about money and the global economy, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the systems that shape our world. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time.